There are about over 100 questions. From the most rather superficial to the most demanding, deeper questions. I wonder why we ask questions. Not because we said we would have questions instead of dialogue, but why do we ask questions? And from whom do we expect answer? If we put the right question, perhaps we should also get the right answer. And it becomes very difficult to answer all these 100 and over 10 questions. So we chose some of them. Perhaps some of your questions may not be answered because there are too many of them. And don't think that we have chosen specially what suits me, what is most convenient for me to answer, because we've asked, one can ask any kind of question that you want to ask, personal, impersonal, serious, or flippant. And we have more or less covered that ground in all these 100 questions. We will try to answer some of these questions this morning. But please bear in mind, if I may remind you, that it's very easy to ask a question. But to listen, to find out for yourself the right answer, one must be fairly inquisitive, fairly serious, fairly demanding. And in answering these questions, we are not the oracle, either from Delphi, or from India, or from Washington. Or perhaps you would prefer from London. But please bear in mind that we are sharing the question together. That one may answer the question, but the very answering of it perhaps will awaken in each one one's own reaction. Either you oppose it, or you accept it, or you deny it, or you say, yes, it might be true. We are investigating the question together. You understand? Together. Therefore, it's not I am answering, the speaker is answering, and you are just listening. We are together answering the question. Though the speaker may put it into words, but we are sharing the question, we are sharing, partaking in the answer. Is that clear? I hope that's clear. Because it's such a lovely morning. So rarely happens in England. It's beautiful blue sky, lovely trees and the lawns and the general clean air. to talk about very serious matters, rather trying. But the first question is it possible ever to be free of self-centered activity? Is there a real self apart from the self-image? Is it possible ever to be free from self-centered activity? Is there a real self apart from self-created image? All right. I wonder what we mean by the self. If each one of us asked to describe in words what the self, the ego, the personality, the center, the basis from which we act, from which we think, from which we feel, when each one of us could be clear, not only verbally as an idea, but actually, what is the self? If you ask somebody what is the self, he said they would say it's all my senses, my feelings, my imagination, my romantic demands, my sense of having a house, a possession, a husband, a wife, my qualities, my struggles, my achievements, my ambitions, and so on and so on. Also my aspirations, my unhappiness, my joys, and so on. All that would be the self. Would we agree to that? You can add more words to it, but the essence of it is this center, the me, my house, my family, my wife, my children, my bank account, what my impulse is. I want to do this. I am impelled to go to India to find truth, and so on, so on, so on. Would we agree to that? Verbal description of what we call the self. Not only the verbal description, but the feeling, the me and the you. Right? We and they, in which all is included nationalities, the family tradition, the name, the form, psychosomatic approach, and the intellectual capacity, the desire to have more clarity, and so on. The me and the you, we and they, right? And from this center, all action takes place. Right? All our aspirations, all our ambitions, our quarrels, our disagreements, our opinions, judgments, experience is centered in this. Right? Could we go on? Shall I go on? We are together here so far, aren't we? not only the conscious self acting outwardly, but also the deep inner consciousness which is not open, obvious. Right? So all this is the me, the I, the ego, the person, the different levels of consciousness. All that is me. Right? Now the questioner asks, is it possible to be free of this center? Right? Why does one want to be free from this center? Is it because this center is the cause of division, me and you, my country and your country, my belief and your belief, my God and your, and so on, so on. And where there is division, there must be conflict. Right? Is this, can we go on? That is, when the me is the active element that is operating all the time, and in you the same me, with a different name, with a different color, different job, different position, with hierarchical social structure, you are Lord so-and-so, somebody else is a servant, and so on. It is the same me dividing itself into different categories, right? Socially, economically, religiously. I think that's very clear. And one realizes where there is division, there must be conflict. The Hindu and the Muslim, the Jew and the Arab, the American and the English and the French and the German, so on, so on, so on, so on. That is physically obvious. And that has brought about in the world tremendous wars, great agony of people, brutality, violence, right? The self identifying itself with an ideal, noble, ignoble ideals, and fighting for that ideal. But it is still the ego trip. Right? It's like those people who go to India, I don't know why, but they do, trying to find spirituality and putting on a different fancy dress and saying, I'm going to find spiritual things there. They've only changed the garb, the clothes, but they are essentially the me, which is operating all the time, struggling, endeavoring, grasping, denying, deeply attached. Deeply attached to one's experience, to one's ideas, to one's opinions, to one's longings. Right? And as one lives, as one observes, this center, this me, is the essence of all trouble. And also all pleasure, all fear, all sorrow. So it says, how am I to get rid of this center? I hope it is clear. We can expand it more, but that is the essence of it. There are too many questions. So, Is it possible, the questioner asks, to be really free? Absolutely, not relatively, which is fairly simple. One can be little unselfish. One can be concerned with social welfare, with others and so on. But the center is always there, biting, hard, brutal. We all know this. So is it possible to be free of that center? First of all, the more effort is made to be free of the center, the more, please listen to this, the more one makes an effort to be free of the center, that very effort strengthens the self. Right? Like those people who go off into meditation of various kinds, trying to impose something upon it, and that me then captures that, identifies with that, and it says, I've achieved. But it's still the center. Right? So, please, to be first, to understand whether it's possible to be free, there must be no effort. Right? Which doesn't mean doing what one likes. That's clear. No? No? If one doesn't make an effort, then let's do what we like, which is still the movement of the self. Whether you put on a yellow robe or purple robe or join a monastery, it is the self still, identified with an ideal and pursuing that ideal through great effort. But the movement is from the center. I wonder if that's clear, isn't it? So what is one to do? If you are not to make an effort, because you see the truth of it, that the more you make an effort, the greater the travail of the self. It is the self that's making an effort to be free of itself. And therefore it's still involved in it. Imagining that it will be free, it will be imagining that it will be, etc., etc. But it is still the activity of the center, me. Then what is one to do? Before we go into that, is there a real self apart from the self created by thought with its images? The question says, is there a real self? Many people feel that. The Hindus have said there is the highest principle, which is the self. And we have imagined also that there is a real self apart from the me. You all, I'm sure, feel that there is something else beyond this me, which is called the higher self or the sublime self or the supreme self. The moment we use the word self or use any word to describe that which is beyond the self, the me, is still the self. The first thing to realize is it possible to be free of the self without becoming a vegetable, without becoming absent-minded, somewhat lunatic, and so on, so on, so on. Is it possible? Which means what? Is it possible to be totally free from attachment? That's one of the attributes, one of the qualities of the self, right? Right, sirs? I am attached to my reputation. I am attached to my name. I am attached to my experience. I am attached to what I have said. And so on. So, is it possible to be free from all attachments? Work it out, sirs. If you really want to be free of the self, no attachment. Which doesn't mean you become detached, indifferent, callous, shut yourself away, which is another form of the self. You understand? Before it was attached, now it says, I won't be attached. It is still the movement of the self. So, if a person, serious, really concerned, because the world is divided, is this, the me and the you, we and they, we British and they French, rather the Irish. The black and the white and the brown. So is it possible, without effort, to be free of attachment to your wife, to your children, to your name? You can't very well be detached from your bank account if you have one. Then the bank profits from it. But to be detached, know what it means? Not to be identified with anything. With your country, with your God, with your nothing. Therefore, when you are really deeply, basically not attached, then from that deep sense of no attachment comes responsibility. Not responsibility to my wife, to my children, to my nephew, niece. This sense of responsibility. Right? Will you do it? That is the question. We can talk everlastingly, put into different words, but when it comes to testing it, active, we don't seem to want to do it. And so we prefer to go on as we are, status quo, slightly modified, but carry on with our quarrels, with our, all the things that are happening in the world. And to be free from your own experience, from your own knowledge, from your own accumulated perception. You understand all this? So, it is possible if you go at it. And it doesn't take time. That's one of our excuses, that we must have time to be free. When you see one of the major factors of the self is attachment, and you see what it does in the world, and what it does in your relationship with another, separation, all the rest, ultimately quarrels, divorce, all the ugliness of relationship. If you see the truth of attachment, then that very truth is so. It is actual. Then you are free from it. Your own perception sets you free. Right? Will you do it? Will the practice of yoga, as it is being done in Europe and in America, help to bring about a spiritual awakening? Is it true that yoga will awaken deeper energy, which is called Kundalini? May I read it once more? You don't, not necessary? Right? There. From the sublime to the ridiculous. The so-called yoga, which the West and part of the East in India, was invented about the 17th and 18th century. The exercises, in order to not only to have a very good body, healthy body, through force, you understand, through discipline, through control, in order to awaken so-called higher energy. 17th, 18th century. The real yoga, which is called Raja Yoga, king of yogas, is to lead highly moral life. Not morality according to circumstances, according to culture, but true ethical activity in life. Not to hurt, not to drink, not to drug yourself, right amount of sleep, right amount of food, clear thinking, and acting morally, doing the right thing. I won't go into all that, what is right and wrong. They never mentioned, as far as I understand after talking with a great many scholars, they never mentioned about exercise. They said, exercise normally, walk, swim, all that. But their emphasis was a very moral life. Highly mind which is active. And modern yoga, the meaning of the word, you know, of course, all of you probably know, is I've talked to the scholars too, and they say it doesn't quite mean that, which is to join. The meaning of the word yoga is to join. Join the higher with the lower, or the lower with the higher. You understand? And modern yoga, I don't know why I'm talking about all this nonsense. I don't know why they call it yoga. It should be called just exercise. But that wouldn't appeal to you. You have to pay money to learn yoga, to breathe properly and all that. Really, you can practice yoga, the exercises of different kinds. The speaker has done some of it for years, taught by the experts. Fortunately, they didn't charge. Because they also thought I was an expert. Sorry. I'm not an expert. And so they soon deserted me. Or I deserted them. So, you can do this kind of yoga exercise for the rest of your life. You won't awaken spiritual insight. Nor will the awakening of a higher energy come into being. You know, in the East has word for this called Kundalini. Some of you probably have read or been caught in that word. But most of the people, as far as I've discussed with them, who have gone into this matter very deeply, they're always quoting somebody else back to the original mischief maker. Sorry, I just want to... And none of them, please believe me, none of them have awakened this thing. They talk about it. They feel certain experience, and which they call by this name. I've discussed with them very seriously. And what they are talking about is a certain form of increasing energy to do more mischief. I mean that. By eating right food, by control, by breathing properly, etc., 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 you have more energy naturally. And that gives you a sense of superiority in your enlightenment and so on. But there is a different form of, I won't go into it because you all are eager. I am not touching it. That can only happen when the self is not. Then there is a totally different kind of energy to keep the mind fresh, young, alive. And that can only come when there is absolutely no sense of the self. right? Obvious reason. Because the self, the me, the center is in constant conflict, right? Wanting, not wanting, creating dualities, opposing desires, this constant struggle that's going on. As long as that struggle is going on, there is a wastage of energy, obviously. When that struggle is not, there is totally different kind of energy taking place. Right? There is a story of a man, of a philosopher or a patriarch. He was a well-known teacher. And a disciple came to him and said, "Master, teach me how to meditate." So he sat up in the right position, and closed his eyes and began to breathe very deeply, trying to capture the higher webs and vibrations and all the rest of it. So the master picks up 2 pieces of stone and rubs them, keeps on rubbing them. And the disciple opens his eyes and says, "Master, what are you doing?" He said, "I'm trying to make out of the stone a mirror so that I can look at myself." And the disciple says, "Master, you can never do that." He said, "In the same way, my friend, you can sit like that and breathe like that forever, but you'll never..." Got it? Can there be absolute security for man in this life? Can there be absolute security for man, and naturally woman, in this life? This is a very serious question, because we all want security, both physical and principally psychological. If you are psychologically secure, certain, then we might not be so concerned with physical security. The search for psychological security, please follow this. The search for psychological security is preventing physical security. We'll go into this. The questioner says, is there absolute security for us, for human beings? We'll answer the answer at the end, but so follow it step by step. We must have security, right? Like a child hanging on to the mother, the child must feel secure. Otherwise, something goes wrong. They have found this. The mother and the father don't pay enough attention to the baby, give all its affection, etc., etc. It affects the brain, the nerves of the baby, of the child. So it must have security. Physical security. And why do we demand psychological security? You understand the difference between the two? There is the psyche demanding security, And the physical demanding security. Right? This is obvious. Now, is there psychological security at all? We want it. We want security in our relationship. Right? My wife, my children, a sense of family unit. That unit is now breaking up. In that, there's a certain security, psychologically. Right? So one is attached to the wife or to the girl, right? So in that attachment, there is security. At least we think there is security. And when there is no security in that person, we soon break away from it and find in another. Right? This is happening. And we try to find security in a group, in the tribe. The glorified tribe is a nation. Right? No? I'm glad. And the nation against another nation. You follow? So, seeking security psychologically in a person, in a country, in a belief, in your own experience, all these are forms of wanting, demanding security. As one demands physical security. Right? Please, we are sharing this together. You are not just listening to me. We are together examining if there is security for us human beings. And demanding the psychological security, we have divided ourselves. Right? The Hindu, the Muslim, the Jew, the Arab, the Christian, non-Christian, the believer in Jesus, the believer in something else. Follow? In all this, there is the demand for security. And this security has been found in illusions. Right? Do you accept that? Right? Security, being secure in Catholicism. Hold yourself tight. In Buddhism, in Hinduism, in Judaism, Islam, and so. You follow? That has created an illusory security because they're fighting each other. I wonder if you see this. Do you see? Moment you see it, you don't belong to anything. So wait a minute. So the demand is for security. It may be an illusion, in superstition, in a ritual, in a dogma, in a nation, in an economic system, in totalitarianism, in what's the word? In being safe, secure, economically, like in America, completely safe. At least they think they are. So, the desire for security not only creates illusion, because it is an illusion, isn't it, to belong to a tribe or belonging to some church. So, one finds security in illusions, in actualities, in a furniture, in a house, in a person. None of these, as you observe, give man security. Because you have had two terrible wars. You haven't had, you follow? You want security, but you create wars which destroy your own security. So, when you see the truth that mind has, or thought has sought out security in illusions, right? The very perception that you are seeking security in illusion, that very perception of that brings you intelligence. Right? Are you following this? Are you following this? Please don't, unless I make it perfectly clear, don't agree with me. I sought security in my belief as being a Hindu with all the nonsensical superstitions and gods and rituals and all the nonsense that goes on. I sought security in that. I haven't, but suppose one does. That opposes another group of people who have different ideas, different gods, different rituals, Catholic, all the rest of it. So these are the two opposing elements, tolerated, but they are antagonistic essentially. So there is conflict between the two, in which I have sought security in one or the other, right? And I realize, by Jove, they're both illusions in which I have tried to find security, right? And to see that they are illusions is intelligence. It's like seeing danger. A man who is blind to danger is an idiot. Is something neurotic, something wrong with him. But we don't see the danger of this, right? And a man who sees the danger intelligence is in operation. In that intelligence, there is absolute security. You get it? Do you understand this? That is, the mind, thought has created various forms of illusions, nationality, class, me and you, different gods, different beliefs, different dogmas, different rituals, the extraordinary religious superstitions that pervade the world. In all that, one has sought security. And one doesn't see the danger of this security, of this illusion. When one sees the danger, not as an idea, but actual fact, that intelligence is the supreme form of absolute security. Right? Are we together? Are you intelligent? Otherwise we miss it. You may You may say, I don't believe in any religions, I have no beliefs, I have no this, I have no that. But the me is in operation, which has created all this, and you're opposing all that by another word, another belief, another idea. So there is absolute security, which means to see the truth in the false. Got it? I wonder if you see this. What time?
23.
Emotions are strong. Our attachments are strong. How does looking and seeing reduce the strength and power of these emotions? Emotions are strong. Our attachments are strong. How does looking and seeing reduce the strength and power of these emotions? Right? Can we go on with that question? Trying to control, suppress, sublimate emotions and attachments in no way reduce the conflict, does it? Clear? Are we generally aware of our emotions? Are we aware of our attachments? Which say emotions are very strong, attachments are very strong. Are we aware of them? Do you know that you are attached? Once find out, are you attached strongly? And are your emotions so extraordinarily strong that they act? So first, one has to be conscious, aware, know, recognize, see that your emotions are strong. And know also, aware, recognize that you are attached. If that is so, when you are so conscious, what takes place? You understand my question? I am conscious of my attachment or my strong emotion of hate, jealousy, antagonism, like and dislike. I'm conscious of them. Right? Are you? Please, we're sharing this thing together. Now, do they, being so strong, overshadow, control my action? You understand? I'm examining, looking, observing the emotions and and attachments which are apparently very strong. And they act as barriers to clear thinking, clear action, to unconfused thinking. So am I aware of them? Or we take it for granted. You follow me? See, yes, I have very strong emotions. I'm terribly attached, but it doesn't matter. They're part of life. I don't mind struggling. I don't mind having quarrels with everybody. There's a lovely joke, but I won't go into it. So are we aware of them? Now, if you are aware, what takes place? Please examine it yourself. See what you're attached. Are you aware that you're attached? Just aware. Know that you're attached to that person, or to that piece of furniture, or to a belief, to a dogma, all the rest of it, attached to something. Now, when you say you are aware, what do you mean by that? Know, recognize. Is thought recognizing the attachment? You follow? See, yes, when you say I am attached, is it the activity of thought that says I am attached? You follow? Go into this, please, with me for a few minutes. Pay attention. Please, sir, quiet. When you say I'm attached, is it an idea? Or is it a fact? The fact is not the idea. This microphone, I can create an idea of it, but that's a fact. I can touch, see, right? So is my attachment a concept, a conclusion, or is it a fact that I'm attached? You see the difference? Do you? Please, Avanti. So, when you are observing the fact, not the idea, not the conclusion about the fact, but the fact, and you are aware of it, is the fact different from you who are observing the fact? You're following all this? I hope your minds are all active. It's clear, isn't it? Am I observing the fact through an idea or through a conclusion? Or I've heard somebody say that, and therefore I look, which means I'm looking through a screen of ideas. So I'm not looking at the fact. So I'm looking now at the fact. I'm not verbalizing the fact, I'm looking at it. How do I look at it? As something separate from me. You understand? Attachment, something different from me, or that's part of me. You understand? Don't go to sleep, please. If you want to sleep, sleep. But if you are serious for a few minutes, see this fact. That is, am I looking as though it was something apart from me? The microphone is apart from me. But attachment Emotions are part of me. Attachment is the me. If I have no attachment, there is no me. So I am awareness of your emotions and and attachments are part of your nature, part of your structure. So you are looking at yourself. So there is no division. There is no duality. Me and attachment. There is only attachment. Not the word, but the fact, the feeling, the emotions, the possessions, the possessiveness in attachment. That's a fact. So that is me. So what am I to do with the me? You understand now? Please follow this step by step. If you get tired or if you're distracted, be distracted, but come back. So, when there was division between me and attachment, I could do something about it. Right? You follow this? I could control it. I could say, no, I mustn't be, or suppress it, or do something about it all the time. Right? Which we do. But if it is me, what can I do? Wait, follow it closely. If it is me, what can I do? I can't do anything, can I? I can only observe. You see the difference? Before, I acted upon it. Now, I can't act upon it because it's me, it's my arm, it's part of me. So all that I can do is to observe. Right? So observation becomes all important. Not what to do about it. You see the difference? So there is observation, not I am observing. There is only observation. In that observation, if I begin to choose, say I mustn't be attached, I'm already moved away in saying that's not me. You understand all this? So, in observation, there is no choice. There is no direction, just pure, absolute, clear observation. Then the thing that is being observed dissolves. Before you resisted it, you controlled it, you suppressed it, you acted upon it. Now, in that observation, all energy is centered. It's only when there is the lack of energy, there's attachment. I wonder if you see this. Do you see this? That is when there is complete observation, without any interference of thought. Because you're observing. Why should thought come in? You understand the point? You are just observing the fly. The thing that you call the fly, just observe. In the same way to observe so completely your emotions, attachments. Then you are gathering, there is the gathering of all energy in that observation. Therefore, there is no attachment. I explained very carefully It's only the unintelligent that are attached. It's only the people who do not see the full implication of attachment that are attached. And they pervade the world. They are the stronger element in the world, and we are caught in that. But when you begin to examine this closely, look at it, then you are no longer caught in that. So you are no longer dissipating energy in something which has no meaning. Naturally. So your energy is now centered completely in observation. Therefore, there is total dissipation of attachment. Test it, do it, and you'll find out. But you have to be step by step. Don't jump into say something or other. You have to examine the thing very, very, very closely. So that your mind is absolutely clear in the observation. Right? It's only the unaware that jump over the cliff. Moment you are aware of danger, move. Attachment is a danger. Because it breeds fear, anxiety, hate, jealousy, being possessed and being not possessed, the whole of that. That's a tremendous danger. And when you see danger, you act. There is not you act, there is action. Why does the mind so readily accept trivial answers to such deeply felt problems? Why does the mind readily accept trivial answers to such deeply felt problems? Right? The questioner says, why do I accept trivial explanation when a deep problem is concerned? You understand? Why do I live in words? That's the real problem. You understand? Why have words become so colossally important? No? Look, I suffer, go through great agonies, and you come along and give me explanations. And in that explanation, I seek comfort. There is God, there is reincarnation, there is this, there is that, there is something else. So I accept the word because it gives me comfort. The explanation gives me comfort. The belief gives me comfort when I'm in agony, in anxiety. So, explanations by philosophers, by analysts, by psychologists, by the priests, by the yoga teachers. Explanations. That's on that we live. Which means we live second-hand. We are second-hand people. And we're satisfied with that. Use the word God, to a Catholic or to a man who believes in Jesus. You follow? The word, the image. Which word is a symbol? The image is a symbol. So symbols become extraordinarily important. Like the flag. Sir, you don't face all this. Why does the mind do this? Is it because we read a great deal of what other people have said? You understand? We listen to what other people have said. We see in the cinema what is taking place. Others. Always somebody else out there telling me what to do. So my mind is crippled by this. So I'm always living second hand. Goodness, you understand, sirs? And we've never asked, can I be a light to myself? You understand? Not the light of someone else, including Jesus or Buddha or somebody else. Can I be a light to myself? Which means no shadow. You understand? Because a light to be a light to oneself means it's never put out by any artificial means, by circumstances, by sorrow, by this, by accident and incidents. A light. Can one be that to oneself? One can only be that to oneself when your mind has no challenge, because it's so fully awake. But most of us need challenges, because most of us are asleep. We are asleep because we've been put to sleep by all the philosophers, by all the saints, by all the gods and priests and politicians. Right? We have been put to sleep. And we don't know we are asleep. We think this is normal. So a man who wants to be light to himself has to be free of all this. And the light to oneself can only take place when there is no self. Then that light that's the eternal, everlasting, immeasurable light. Right, sir. Could we go on with these questions instead of dialogues? Yes. Discussions? I thought so. I do all the talking. I hope not.